My first mistake was thinking I was special. Like somehow the rules didn't apply to me. My name is Bethany, and I'm 29. It wasn't some torrid, secret love affair straight out of a movie. It was messy, clumsy, and honestly, a little boring at times. It all started with Evan. He was the one I was married to my husband. He wasn't a bad guy. Not really. He just faded. He was a sweet guy. A little quiet. A little too into his spreadsheets and staying home. We'd been together for 7 years. Married for 4. It felt like we were just roommates. We paid bills. We went to the same family functions. We went to bed at the same time. But there was nothing there anymore. Just a routine we were both going through. He was an emotionally withdrawn type of guy, which made it easy to create a space for someone else. The other guy, Mark, he was different. We met at church, which I know sounds cliche, but it's the truth. I was in the women's ministry, and he was a deacon. He was married to a woman named Clara, a sweet-looking, gentle soul who always brought her famous spinach dip to the potlucks. Mark had a way of making me feel seen. He'd talk to me about my day, not just ask me about it like Evan would, but genuinely listen, his eyes on mine. Evan would be at home, probably watching a documentary about ancient civilizations, and I'd be at a women's ministry meeting, sitting next to Clara and thinking about her husband. It started innocently enough. A text about a Bible verse, a question about a prayer request. Then it turned into something more. The messages got longer, more personal. He'd tell me about his day, and I'd tell him about mine. We'd complain about our spouses, but in a way that made it feel like we were the only 2 people in the world who understood each other. I'd complain about Evan being distant, and he'd complain about Clara being, in his words, too needy. It was an emotional connection at first, a lifeline in a marriage that felt like it was drowning. I kept telling myself it wasn't a big deal, that we were just friends who happened to be married to other people. Then one day, we were at a church event, a charity car wash. I was handing out water bottles, and he was collecting money. He leaned in and whispered, "I think about you all the time. You know." My heart fluttered like a bird caught in a cage. I know it sounds stupid, but in that moment, I felt alive. I felt like I was the main character in my own story again. Not just a supporting role in someone else's. I know what you're thinking. I should have stopped, but I didn't. I just kept going, chasing that feeling of being wanted. The physical part of the affair was complicated. It wasn't some passionate, earth-shattering romance. It was just an escape. We'd meet in the back of his car in a deserted parking lot. A quick, fumbling encounter that left me feeling more empty than before. We never went to a hotel, never went to a restaurant. It was always in his car, quick and dirty. I'd go home and shower off his scent, and Evan wouldn't even notice. He was too busy with his ancient history documentaries. One day, Evan came home from work and found me crying in the bedroom. I had been having a bad day, and the weight of everything, the affair, my unhappy marriage, my own guilt had finally caught up to me. He sat on the bed and put his hand on my back, and for a second, I felt a pang of guilt. He asked me what was wrong, and I just told him I felt like we were drifting apart. He looked so sad, so genuinely hurt. He said he felt it too, and that he wanted to work on it. He suggested we go to couples counseling. I said yes, but in the back of my mind, I knew I was just going through the motions. I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth. I just told myself I was protecting him. We went to a few sessions, and it was fine. Evan would talk about how he felt disconnected, how he missed our connection. I would talk about how I felt neglected and how I needed more attention. I kept all the details about Mark out of it. Of course. The therapist would ask about our emotional intimacy, and I just shrug and say things like, "It's just not there anymore." I was so good at lying, at creating a narrative where I was the victim. The affair with Mark continued. It was like a second life, a secret I kept in my phone. I had a separate app for our messages, a hidden one that only I knew how to access. I was careful, so careful. I thought I had it all figured out. We would meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays during my lunch break, and I would make up some excuse for Evan. He never questioned it. He was a kind, naive man who just trusted me. I should have felt bad about that, but I didn't. I just saw it as a free pass. The weeks went on, and I started to get sloppy. I'd leave my phone on the counter and then have a panic attack, racing back to grab it before Evan could see. I'd forget to clear my search history, and then I'd have to invent a story about why I was looking up hotels in a different city. It was exhausting. A constant game of cat and mouse. I was so convinced I was getting away with it, that I was the smartest one in the room. The night before the potluck, I was at home with Evan. We were sitting on the couch, and he was watching one of his documentaries. I was on my phone, scrolling through my messages with Mark, smiling at a picture he sent me. I didn't hear Evan come up behind me. He leaned over my shoulder, and his voice was low. but I could feel the anger simmering just below the surface. "Who's that?" he asked. I panicked. I just laughed and said, "Oh, just a friend from church." He didn't say anything else, but I could feel his eyes on me, watching me. He knew something was up. I just shrugged it off, thinking he was just being paranoid. The next day was the women's ministry potluck. It was at the church, in the fellowship hall. I was wearing a new dress I had bought just for the occasion. I brought Clara's spinach dip, a little gesture to make myself feel better. All the women were there, all of us in our Sunday best, laughing and talking. Clara was there. Of course, a little quiet in the corner. I avoided her, feeling a familiar pang of guilt. I was still so convinced that I was special, that I had it all under control. I was so wrong. I saw Mark across the room, and we exchanged a quick, knowing look. It was a stupid, reckless thing to do, but I couldn't help it. I needed that validation, that thrill of being seen. It was my last mistake. Clara saw us. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but in retrospect, I can see the moment her eyes hardened. She just watched us for a second, and then she went to her car. I thought she was just going to grab something, a forgotten casserole dish or something. I had no idea what was about to happen. She came back in with her laptop. She sat down at a table, and then she just opened it. Everyone was talking, laughing, not paying attention to her, but I was watching her with a knot in my stomach. She opened a folder, and then she just started reading. She didn't say anything. She just started reading our messages. She read them out loud, in a soft, gentle voice. The kind of voice she used when she was talking about a prayer request. "I think about you all the time." "Too," she read. "I miss you." She read my messages. My texts. My everything. Everyone was quiet now. They were all staring at her, their mouths open in shock. Clara just kept going, her voice unwavering. "I can't wait to see you on Tuesday." She read. "Evan is working late." The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. She read everything, every single message, every single lie. I was frozen, just standing there, watching my life fall apart in front of me. I wanted to run, to scream, to just disappear, but I couldn't. I was a deer in the headlights, just waiting for the final blow. When she finished, she just closed her laptop, looked at me, and said, "Is that enough, Bethany?" The room was in an uproar. Women were gasping, whispering, looking at me with a mixture of disgust and pity. I wanted to tell them it wasn't what they thought, that it was a misunderstanding, that I was just a victim in all of this. But I couldn't. There were no words. I just stood there, my face burning with shame. I ran out of the room, my heart pounding in my chest. I drove home, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I didn't know what to do, what to say. I just knew that my life was over. I got home, and Evan was there. He was sitting on the couch, just waiting for me. He had a look on his face that I'll never forget. It was a mixture of betrayal and heartbreak. He just looked at me, and I knew he had seen the messages, too. He didn't say a word. He just got up and walked out the door. He didn't pack a bag. He didn't say he was leaving. He just walked out, and I knew he wasn't coming back. The next few weeks were a blur. I tried to call Evan, but he wouldn't answer. I tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't see me. He had moved in with his brother. The women's ministry kicked me out. People at church wouldn't talk to me. I was a pariah, a scarlet letter on my chest. I tried to find a new church, but the whispers followed me. I couldn't escape it. I tried to talk to Mark, but he wouldn't answer my calls. He had deleted his social media, changed his number. He had just disappeared. I was alone, with nothing but the mess I had made. Evan filed for divorce, and I had to sell the house. I had to get a new job, a new life. Everything was gone, just like that. I tried to blame Evan, to tell myself he was the reason I had strayed. I tried to blame Mark, to say he had manipulated me. I tried to blame Clara, to say she was a vindictive woman who had ruined my life. But in the end, I had to look at myself in the mirror. I had to face the truth. I had an affair, and I had destroyed my life. I was alone, and I had nobody to blame but myself. I heard through the grapevine that Evan had started dating a new woman. I saw a picture of them on his social media. She was a pretty, sweet-looking woman, with a genuine smile. She wasn't like me. I saw them holding hands, laughing, looking at each other with a genuine love I had never seen from Evan. He looked happy, genuinely happy. I heard he had started a new job, a promotion. He was flourishing, and I was just withering. I tried to move on, to start a new life. But every time I saw a couple holding hands, or a woman laughing with her husband, I felt a pang of jealousy, a deep, hollow emptiness. I had everything I had ever wanted, and I had thrown it all away for a cheap, flimsy affair. I was alone, And I had nobody to blame but myself. The universe had a way of balancing things, a way of making you pay for your mistakes. And I had a lot of them to pay for.